Facebook's revenue is mostly built on serving you relevant ads, but that requires you to stay online. One way to do that? Religion.
This is In the Loop. I'm Christian Bryant. We love to talk about social media here. We are an exceptionally online group of people. But with all that content you're scrolling through, there are some opportunities for these platforms to make some serious money on ads, and not a whole lot of rules on how. Tonight, we're taking a look at just how much information social networks have on you and how that impacts you. And we're going to break it down platform by platform. Let's start off with the newest and trendiest of them all, TikTok. If you're on this app, you already know everything is specifically curated for you.
What does it mean?
Hence the For You page. The ads are often well-disguised videos. I'm guilty of watching a few on accident thinking they were regular TikToks. And I enjoyed some of them, but that's probably because they take into account a lot about a user. Ads on TikTok can use demographic information like gender, age, location, and language. To get even more specific, companies serving ads can also look at a user's interests or behaviors. For those last two categories, those companies would consider what videos you interact with more often. The method is clearly working. Last year, Reuters reported that TikTok owner ByteDance raked in more than $25 billion in ad revenue from the app. One thing TikTok does let you do is scroll past the ad if it's not your cup of tea. Alphabet, the parent company for Google and YouTube, works a little differently. On YouTube, in some cases, skipping an ad isn't an option for anywhere between 5 to 30 seconds. Nothing worse than wanting to show your friend a video and getting hit with an unskippable ad. But the content of what ends up being catered to you is meticulously thought out. See, Google ads also use demographics like age, gender, parental status, even your household income, but it can go way deeper than that.
We also collect info as you use our services. That means info about the devices, apps, and browser you're using, as well as your activity on Google, like the searches you make, ads you interact with, and visits to websites that use our services. It can also include information about your location as you use Google services.
That's a little overwhelming, right? Ads can then be used to target you based on a wide range of things, including life events like graduation, marriage, first baby, first house. You might also get served up an ad if you're in the market for a certain type of product. Say you're searching for a new fan and you browse a few from Lasco. Next thing you know, you get an ad for a Dyson fan on YouTube. That's because of the available data. Dyson knows you were in the market for a fan, so boom. Google keeps track of all y'all, and it definitely makes them a pretty penny. Last year, $147 billion came from Google's ad business. The good thing is, if this has you feeling uneasy, you can change some of the settings, like turning off your ad personalization. Last but not least, we have Facebook and Instagram. Like all the other sites, they like to keep track of your basic demographics. Page likes make it easy to find someone's hobbies, interests, and maybe even political affiliation. These companies learn a lot about you when you fill out your profile with information like your birthday, current location, and major life events. Unlike Google, Facebook and Instagram do not sell your data, but they do have a way of getting their hands on data from the surfing you do on social media websites or apps.
When you're scrolling through a backpack website, for example, and you click on a specific backpack, that business might create a piece of data that says an individual on device X clicked on this backpack. That business might send that piece of data to companies like Facebook, and then we check to see if device X matches with any of our users. And if we find a match, then we might show you an ad for that backpack in your newsfeed.
Much like Google's platform, you can opt out and choose to restrict how these companies use your data, but it ain't easy. Instagram can use data on users that was collected from Facebook since Facebook owns it. In fact, if you look through Facebook's ad library, which shows all ads on the platform, you can see what ads also went to Instagram and WhatsApp. It's easy to see that revenue from all these ads is what helps social media sites thrive, hence all the effort they put into trying to target the right stuff to the right people. Facebook recently saw another opportunity to add to its business plan. Newsy's Tyler Adkison shows us how religious content carries a lot of clicks.
Facebook's revenue is mostly built on serving you relevant ads, but that requires you to stay online. One way to do that? Religion. And religious content is very popular on Facebook. According to researchers, the 4 most shared links on the platform in the US in 2020 were Christian-based content, with the top link related to the Bible and the coronavirus at roughly 62 million views. Facebook says that one of the most popular links on the platform for the second quarter of 2021 was Reppin' for Christ, a website selling Christian merchandise. Links for that page got more than 51 million clicks in a 3-month period. Facebook has created several tools for religion-focused Facebook groups, including a prayer function. Users can create a prayer post and ask for support from fellow users, who can respond with an I prayed button. Religious leaders tell Newsy these tools help tie religious communities together. But they also worry that people might get too comfortable with sharing deeply personal issues and the privacy concerns that can come with that.
When we're reading Facebook and seeing all these things that people are posting, it's like, are you really posting all that, right? Really? Right? And that's not necessarily good. Now, again, they shouldn't hide it, but it's probably not best to publish it.
Steck also told Newsy that while these digital tools from Facebook helped people stay connected during the pandemic, he hopes that social media doesn't replace in-person, face-to-face religious experiences, but rather supplement the experience. Tyler Atkinson, Newsy, Chicago.
Here to talk with us a little bit more about that story is Newsy's Tyler Atkinson. I want to bring up this prayer tool function. What sort of privacy concerns are associated with this tool? And can advertisers use those, super personal, super long prayer posts to figure out what ads to target people with?
So Facebook says that advertisers will not be able to target ads based on the use of the prayer feature and whatever content that comes up in there, and that the prayer tool doesn't even factor into the categories that ad buyers already have. But do keep in mind that ad buyers can locate audiences with similar interests and topics that fit into religious areas like the Catholic Church or faith or something like that. But, I think that there is a reason to have a bit of a healthy skepticism about privacy concerns because, at the base level, whenever there's a new technological tool rolling out, there's going to be some hiccups with it. It's just kind of inevitable. But, I would think it's fair to say that it doesn't necessarily add new privacy concerns that we've never heard of before, but it kind of spotlights an issue that comes into play when people really share intimate details about their life on social media. Because, look, Facebook's goal at the end of the day is to run a business. What I think is going to be interesting to see is sort of how this relationship and this coupling between Facebook and faith communities will go, especially if we do end up seeing down the line that, a lot of these prayer posts do end up getting people's personal information taken or stolen at a certain point.
As we've talked about earlier in the show, any bit of personal information can be used to target folks, and if there are these deeply personal, prayer posts, that's probably another concern for folks. One of the things we've talked about is the power these social media sites have with the data they collect on us, right? And we know that they can get that in a number of ways. And how exactly are lawmakers trying to catch up with these privacy concerns? Are they making any headway with trying to catch up with these privacy concerns?
In the US, there is no federal privacy standard like there is, say, in the European Union with the General Data Protection Regulation. The US doesn't have a singular law that covers the privacy of all types of data. We have a mishmash of different laws that, like HIPAA and FERPA, COPPA, things like that. It's sort of left us in a state where we have a real patchwork system about how data protection laws are supposed to work. And, for all intents and purposes, a lot of them don't really match up to one another. And in the US right now, there's only a few states that actually have data privacy laws that are relatively comprehensive. For instance, California, they have a particularly strong data privacy protection law, and it does things like requiring global opt-outs to remove a person's data, not by going through each individual group that wants to track them, but by giving them a global opt-out so that they can just say once, I don't want to be tracked, and they don't have to remember which sites are tracking them and which sites aren't. Colorado also recently passed a privacy act that gives consumers the right to ask companies to not sell their personal information and to give them access to data when they ask for it at a certain point. Their law even goes as far as giving citizens the right to tell law enforcement officials to hold or to get consent to hold certain sensitive information, like, say, their social security number or something. Virginia is the third state that has a Consumer Protection Act in place, but there's a little bit of skepticism around how strong or consumer-facing it really is. The bill is based on opt-out consent, so you're still automatically enrolled into data protection or into data collection programs unless you explicitly ask these companies to leave. Now, lawmakers have expressed in the past the desire to create a baseline federal regulation because, like I said, we have a patchwork system right now and everyone handles it a little bit differently, and there's not really necessarily the same outcome for people who want to be able to try to, protect their data in, say, Illinois versus California. But, how close are we getting to that federal standard? I don't know if it's something we're going to see in the near term, because really the momentum is kind of stalled around privacy issues and has been refixated on antitrust and misinformation. And I think that, through antitrust, you might be able to get to this. But right now, really a lot of the work is being put into breaking up these companies with immense power that can utilize that data for their own business models rather than trying to create a new privacy law for everybody around the U.S.
Folks, on ITL, we like talking about what's happening on social media sites, what's happening behind the scenes. And today we couldn't do it without you, Tyler Atkinson. Thanks so much, and hopefully you'll join us again sometime.
Thank you.
When you're back, we're turning our attention to the recovery after Ida and how climate change factors into future hurricanes.